Good morning.
Couldn't get in there.
I will call the Cook County Board of Commissioners regular meeting to order on this day, Tuesday, April 14th, at 8:30 a.m. We begin our meeting with the pledge. Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Support?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. At this time, we do offer a few minutes for anybody in the public who would like to come forth and tell us what they are concerned about. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to do that? I see no one in the audience, so I will ask the commissioners if they've received comments. Commissioner Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to read a email that was sent to all of us to be read at our April 3rd meeting. That was a special meeting of the Cook County Board of Commissioners, and we did not have public comment for that special meeting. Hello, Commissioners and County Administrator Kristen Trebel-Halbersma. I see that at the special board meeting of the Cook County Board of Commissioners, a vote will be taken to approve the $200,000 loan to the EDA, and I'm very disappointed with some of the details that have been discovered, and I would like to share my thoughts with all of you. At the last Commissioners Board meeting, it was announced that a mechanic's lien on the Gunflint View was discovered by County Attorney Peterson, and that this was placed in November 2025 by the construction firm. It sounds like the chairman of the EDA, Peter Klizold, had just found out about this in the past several weeks. Did Cook County HRA Director Jeff Brand know about this lien? Who was privy to this information, and should it have been shared? I'm also wondering why the EDA borrowed $200,000 to the Gunflint View. I was surprised to learn about this loan and wondered if the EDA has the authority to grant loans such as they did, given the fact that Cook County funds the EDA through our tax levy. I also wondered why the EDA didn't pause the second half of their business development granting funding and use that $100,000 towards the amount they will be short until getting their loan repaid by the Gunflint View. This is not the way the EDA should be operating, and I agree with Commissioner White, who stated at a recent county board meeting that the board should schedule a meeting with the EDA to discuss their operations. I have a huge problem that after all of the money the EDA has thrown at Superior National Golf Course in the decades they have been operating, that they will be approximately $90,000 in the red when they complete the sale. If they knew that the irrigation system was not operating as it should, and that the septic system would also need an inspection before the sale, why weren't those details addressed before a selling price was decided on? I know that the sale involves an escrow amount for that, but that doesn't guarantee that the actual cost might be more than what was set aside. Thanks for listening to my thoughts, and I would appreciate if my letter could be read aloud at the meeting. I truly hope that this sale happening at the golf course, the county board and the EDA can learn from mistakes that were made with taxpayers' money. Sincerely, Cheryl Humphrey, Grand Marais.
Has anyone else received comments?
No.
No. Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 3, the consent agenda. In this agenda, we do have our claims, our minutes from the Commissioner's special meeting on April 3rd, the Commissioner regular meeting on March 24th, permit for a raffle for the Gunflint Lake Property Owners Association, a seasonal liquor license renewal, appoint Neva Maxwell as AMC voting delegate. Would anyone like to pull anything?
Motion to approve.
Support?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So this morning, we have a public meeting at 9:30, so I don't like to interrupt a presentation. So let's move quickly into the highway, and I think Robbie can move along pretty good and explain to us what's happening.
I hope I can. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
All right, a few things today. First one, a very exciting one. The last project we have for 2026 is hopefully going to be awarded, but I was very happy with the price that came in and how that compared to what we thought it was. Obviously concerns all the time with price up here and the cost of living up here and doing business up here. And so to see this award come in, or to see this low bid come in, made me very happy. As a reminder, this is awarding for the Gunflint 92's construction project, and so this is going to reconstruct the Gunflint Trail between County Road 92 East and County Road 92 West, just past Mid-Trail, and we'll do that this summer. We were awarded $1.5 million in local road improvement funds, which is great. That's a competitive state-funded grant, and so we have that going towards it, and then the rest of it will come from our state aid allocation. So does anybody have any questions?
Commissioner Sullivan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would anxiously like to recommend awarding the contract to the low bidder KGM Contractors for $3,677,000, $486.55.
Support.
Any questions or comments?
I know that all the people up the trail are thrilled about this, as well as many of our visitors.
I'll ask for a vote then. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Wonderful. Next, I think we have, what do we have? Gravel crushing. And so this is something we do every single year. You can see we actually had quite a few bidders. Normally we don't get this many, so that was kind of exciting. And we typically budget right around $150,000, if I remember correctly, for crushing. And so this year we're going to crush 15,000 cubic yards of Class 1. Does anybody have any questions?
I'm amazed that we still have good gravel to
Oh, yeah.
crush.
We'll be okay for a
We'll be okay. Okay. Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I make a motion to award the contract to the low bidder, Lutzdek?
Yes.
Close enough?
Close enough.
And Sons for $141,000 for crushing 15,000 cubic yards of Class 1 aggregate.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously there, too.
Wonderful. And then the last thing we can talk about is calcium chloride. Again, another budgeted annual contract that we do. If you'll remember, a couple of years ago, we actually put together a chloride policy because that unit cost kept going up and up and up and up and up, and we can't keep up with that. And so we kind of capped it at right around $200,000, which then made us really look at which roads we treat. And so that's kind of helped really narrow the scope and focus our work on not trying to do everything, but hitting it where we can while trying to maintain the budget. So what was nice with this is Knife River came in right under our budget. So we'll do 120,000 gallons at just over $195,000. Does anybody have any questions?
Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Robbie. My question is, when we read, it speaks of applying the product, does that mean that the quote is for them to actually provide and apply it?
Yes. Yeah. So they'll come out, we do a short truck and a long truck. Long
Yeah.
truck for long roads, short truck for tighter, narrow roads. But then, they come out, they're the ones that spray it. What we do is we have someone on our staff follow along, basically, and then have them on the radio all day talking about,
Doing it wrong.
Yeah, basically, just that. That's all we do. No, but, adjusting the width that they spray it.
Yeah.
And so then also making sure we're not just like spraying it into the ditch or spraying, okay, stop here
Yeah.
at this point in the road, that type of
Yeah,
thing. So
yeah.
they do apply it, yes.
Has the highway department always contracted out?
Oh, yeah.
For the application?
Correct.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. No, we don't have like tankers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
We could budget that.
No, that's okay. It's the first I was aware that we weren't applying, I thought we were buying it.
No.
I thought you were out there with a backpack and just,
On the back of the pickup.
yeah,
We're just kind of sprinkling it.
yeah.
And most of the gravel roads will all have some kind of application?
So if you remember that policy, I think we capped it at, I want to say, 100 vehicles per day. And then we do make exceptions in that policy, if it's a long straight road, for example. I think North Road is a wonderful example of that, where it doesn't meet that 100 vehicle per day criteria, but we know that's a long straight road, so we do treat that then. But there, it gives us a little leeway in the policy while also not treating roads with, 5 cars per day on it, that type of thing. So we do try and hit most. It is less than we've historically done, but that's just a function of the cost, so.
And if we have a rainy summer, that means probably you won't have to do it as much.
Well, yeah, that's the other nice thing. If we have a rainy or even a normal summer of rain, then everything can set up really, really well. And so even still doing this application, then everything sets up really nice, which is awesome. So fingers crossed for that.
Fingers crossed.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Commissioner Sullivan?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to award the contract to the low bidder, Knife River, for $195,240 for the application of 120,000 gallons of liquid calcium chloride on county roads.
Support?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robbie.
Moving on, we're going to talk with Brooke about some maintenance. Come forward. Good morning, Brooke.
Morning. Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Kind of had to scramble to get up. I was watching it, and I'm like, oh, we're going to move quickly, okay. Which one was first on the agenda?
The Auditor's Office project
Oh,
for
yes,
the election.
yes. So I had that, that was a request by Brady and his team for election compliance. I had it bid a while ago with Gartner Construction, and it was quite a large bid, close to $50,000. So we kind of put it on the back burner. But then when we had Johnson Wilson in town, and they have carpenters already in town and everything kind of on site, we rebid it with them and came in less than 50%. It was $20,600. So after the conversation with Brady, we decided to go forward with that one and see what everybody thinks about that. And Brady can kind of explain the
Yeah.
process and why we're doing this.
So we've been asking maintenance for years if we could expand the front window or create 2 windows. It's really for election season when we're the polling place for 12 of our 14 precincts and for all mail balloting, absentee balloting. So it gets busy for a short period of time. And you want to separate the regular work, taxes, deeds, passports, et cetera, from the election work. People are registering and voting, et cetera. It's been difficult finding a method to get that extra window up there. It's pretty tight. And we thought, talking with Brooke, we could potentially just use that little alcove right outside of our doorway. It's on the outside wall there. It's an unused space. And just put a window, it's an open doorway, but he would put a window in it and then just open it. Adriana could sit there. So part of it is this business with elections that's gone on for years, but this year, what really pushed us to ask again is a new law that's going into effect in 2026 called early voting. And we have to do this. They've been doing direct balloting for a couple of years. We're small. We decided not to do that, but now we have no choice. So this will start 19 days out from the primary and from the general election, so anybody can come in and actually vote their ballot in a machine. And the machine has to be monitored. It has to be within our site. We have to oversee the process. We have no idea how popular it's going to be. We expect maybe not real popular in the beginning of that 19-day period, but more and more as you get close. So the options are to set up, you could hire an election judge to sit there and monitor that machine, or this was another option. We could have, looking at where you can put a machine in that open area, by having it at that alcove, Adriana or whoever's at that point can watch and can stay at work doing their job, and if somebody comes in to vote, then they'd be available to watch and oversee the process. So that's the reason for the request.
Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Brady, in our discussion on facilities recently and looking at all of that, how does this fit into the long term?
I have no idea. So that's the rub right now.
Yeah. With how we're seeing that long-term, Brooke, if you have anything that you can, add to this, but I would just say that ideally, it would fit into a long-term. The fact that it's not 50 and it's 20,000 now helps mitigate some of that
Right.
expense-related. But if you look at options with that in mind, long-term, if the short-term really, in order to make this happen, is something that we have to expend those dollars, then we have to. But that would be my concern is,
Yeah, we're hoping to work it into the long-term as well, but the long-term, again, is kind of unknown and could end up being a very large number that we may not go forward with, or may happen in 3, 4, 5 years.
yeah,
So I kind of look at it more as a short-term fix because of compliance issues that Brady and his team have to deal with the elections. And that's where the 50,000 was like, well, this is kind of ridiculous. We'll try and figure something else out, but then when it came in at 20, it is a expensive possible short-term fix, but I still see it being more longer-term and running through a few elections.
yeah. And Madam Chair and Brooke, if given conversations relative to the long-term, that it's more how we align departments and whether that has a function with that realignment. But as long as, we understand that, we're having discussions and how would this fit in and how much money is that? And the priority at this point is the compliance issue and how we're going to facilitate that. The other question I guess I'd have for Brady is that with the voting machine in the alcove outside of the window, it's something, there isn't anything in the compliance requirement that says where that machine needs to be placed and under what circumstances, if you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not that
specific.
It doesn't say, behind a locked door, it doesn't say. But they have to have the same, let's say, privacy and ability to do it as they would in any polling place
Yeah.
when they're voting. So we're going to have to place it so that other business isn't going to impact them with the voting.
Yeah,
So it can't be like right next to the window, right inside in our office where we're going back and forth. It would have to be, it still has to be in a separate location. We can manage that in that open area
yeah.
to be separate from business.
Yeah. Well, I certainly, support it, just that connection long-term.
Yeah.
And the fact that we've halved that bid to do it
Yeah.
helps that, but.
Yeah, the plan is we're still gonna, that lobby is still gonna be there in the initial planning for the CIP.
Yeah.
And the master plan, and windows in that general location, so it very well could end up being we utilize these 2 windows. Even if it's not Brady
Right.
utilizing them,
That's
somebody
what I
else.
That's what I would hope.
That's
that
what
it
we're
wouldn't be
hoping, yeah.
wasted.
Yeah, Well, I appreciate, connecting the thought in the long term as well as the short term. With that, I'd make a motion to support the office project for election compliance.
Support.
Any further questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously on that.
Thank you.
Okay? And you can move on.
Yeah, and next we have the Toolcat that we discussed during budget season. The initial bids I got from Bobcat of Duluth, and that came in closer to the $100,000 mark. It was 96, almost 97,000. So I budgeted 100 just in case of increases and stuff going into the new year. But then I utilized the state bid site. So it comes through Bobcat of Duluth, and that's where we get it, and that's where we get it serviced, but it comes out of Doosan corporate with the state negotiated bid price, and that's what brings it down to the $83,992. Significant savings just going through the state bid site.
Questions? Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So, Brooke, have we had a Bobcat like this before?
No, we have not.
Yeah, and this is primarily an investment for snow removal?
snow removal, and we can use it for a lot of summer stuff as well that we'll pay McMillan and other contractors to do. We'll use it for a lot of, our first plan is to use it for some gardening, some planters up at the community center, and that for, so dirt work in the summer. The bike ramps and other items that we sometimes have to get other people to help us move. The school has the exact Toolcat, and we borrowed theirs a few times. Tom was nice enough to let us borrow theirs, so we got to utilize it and realize how handy and helpful it could be in our day-to-day.
Yeah, where will it be housed?
It'll be housed up at the old search and rescue.
Okay. And so in looking at this, oftentimes we pay for outside contractors and individuals to provide service to us, and at the point that we're weighing that as opposed to taking it inside,
Yep.
it can be a long-term, both
Yeah.
convenience and savings, so,
Yep.
yeah, yeah, okay, thank you.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of Bobcat UW56 Toolcat.
Support?
Any further questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed unanimously. Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioner.
Next on our item number 7, equipment grant. Brady will fill us in.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This, you've heard about this before. This is the emergency grant we applied for the airport. There, so this would be approval by resolution to enter into an equipment grant agreement. It's number 1062882 with Minnesota Department of Transportation for the purchase of a 2026 Ford F-250 pickup, and it's for use in snow plowing and fuel transport. And just to remind again, the current pickup used by the airport suffered severe damage a few weeks ago, including a broken piston valve and bent connecting rods, and the pickup is essential for the close cleanup work around the airport, around buildings and the other equipment, and it's also crucial for delivering diesel fuel to the entire fleet of airport maintenance equipment. They go to town and pick up through in the tank now, and then this has a mounted fuel tank where Rod was going down with cans to empty, to fill and then empty. The repairs on that piece of equipment are still weeks away, so the emergency equipment grant requested by the airport has been approved. It's a 70% cost split, so 70% by the state, 30% by the county. The quoted cost from North Star Ford was $49,580. There was an additional $3,500 for the plow mount, and they were offering a rebate of exactly that much at the same time. The state rules disallowed some of the options that came with the unit, so the end result is a state grant of $34,051.50, with the county responsible for $15,528. The airport, Rod, they intend to fix the old pickup themselves and then keep it as a backup, which makes sense, because it was difficult to find a backup in town, and even the highway has an old unit that can't do everything that this pickup can do, so that also makes sense. So I'll wait for questions.
Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brady, so what fund is that, the 15,000 coming out of?
It'll come from the airport. Right now, they've got a capital
Yeah.
fund, and we still have to, I think I'll come back at another meeting. I think we need to make that fund whole, because we were not funded back in 2016 for a grant where it was disallowed by the federal government, and we've been waiting for a lawsuit with RSNH to conclude, and then we finally got a payment, but it's a partial payment. It was maybe 2/3 of the actual cost. So that fund had a positive balance for that event, and I think we should look at making that fund whole again, as the responsibility was RSNH, And, yeah.
So, Madam Chair, as a follow-up to that, then,
Yeah.
when you say make the fund whole, you're not saying replace the, what, 15,000, 14, 15,000, you're saying that whatever that fund
I-
was,
The fund itself would handle this with
Yeah.
what was in there. It had a fund balance from years ago when the highway did
Yeah.
the project, part of the reason, up by the new airport.
yeah,
And right-of-way money from the federal government went to the airport, and it supplied them with a good fund balance for things like this.
yeah,
But then that went away with that, the lack of funding. We lost $565,000 of federal funding
yeah,
on 2 projects up there because of a mistake
yeah.
that our
That's
design team made.
That's not a good story, that one.
Yeah, and we got about, if I remember right, about $345,000 back
Yeah.
in the settlement. So
Yeah.
they're still short a considerable amount
Yeah.
in that fund
Are we
balance. We
allowed
just
to-
haven't had that discussion yet.
Are we allowed to have a vehicle that new up there?
We should.
Yeah.
That vehicle has hard duty.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Just to share, that vehicle that broke down was over 20 years old. It's amazing, given the hard work it does up at the airport, that it has lasted that long. And I'm really happy that we have an opportunity here to have even an old, but a backup vehicle. And again, I want to thank the Cook County Highway Department for allowing us to be able to have our airport open during this time where we did not have a pickup truck. Very critical for emergency services, for life flight, all kinds of things. So with that, I would like to make a motion to approve by resolution and enter into an equipment grant agreement number 1062882 with the Minnesota Department of Transportation for the purchase of a 2026 Ford F-250 pickup for airport use in snow plowing and refueling.
Support.
Any further questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to Rural Schools, Title III.
So this is kind of a long story. So last year, the federal government hadn't approved secure rural schools. That's something that has to be reapproved periodically, and they'll approve it for 2 years or 1 year or 3 year. But they hadn't reapproved it then, so then it fell back to an old method of funding, and we did get some funding, and we allocated that, and it was much less than what we all budgeted. And then I heard within a couple of months that the federal government had, again, reapproved, and this is for last year's. And so that's what this funding is actually the difference. Had it all been approved last year, this is the difference, because we got some last year, and this is the rest of it. So this is actually for last year's grant. And so on March 23rd, we received $231,958.43 from the state. And this has changed to, they don't provide any information. We used to get a check in an envelope with the explanation of what this is. Then we used to get an electronic payment, and you might get an email or a letter at some time close to the payment. And this year we didn't get anything but a blip on our bank account that with this amount of money, it says SRS 2. So I surmised what it's for.
Is it
And then-
crypto?
Huh?
They give you crypto?
No, I don't think so. Anyway, I made some phone calls, and I finally got an answer back, got a confirmation. Anyway, that's the change in how things operate now. So anyway, under the same allocation, 85% is split between highway and school, and then 8% goes directly to Resource Advisory Council. We never see that. And 7% is allocated to Title III. Title III is the one that needs some specific rules around it. So that's what this is all about, is that Title III part that can be used for Firewise, and it can be used for emergency services and the Forest Service. And given that we ran out of this funding for Firewise, and we're using some of our tax forfeit reserve funds, we're asking that we use all of this for Firewise this year, so that we can go back we may need both of these sources of funds, so, for Firewise this year. We will get an additional Title III of $17,649. And we have to, I'm sorry, so anyway, the notice is that we have to have a 45-day waiting period after giving notice. Someone could give comment, and we can't use the funds until after 45 days of publishing this notice.
Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brady, so when we contract basically for Firewise, and so we don't have a county position.
Right.
We just contract out since we began that. And my question, it's a discussion beyond the motion before us today, but when we look at those revenues and we look at the Firewise coordinator, just examples between Carlton County and Lake County and St. Louis County, all of them handle it differently as far as its alignment, some with soil and water and some with emergency management services. I'm just wondering if the provision would be there, if it makes any sense, that with our environmental director, if the duties of Firewise would align with some of those duties, to help in funding that position. That's just a discussion that I wouldn't mind bookmarking to have a conversation on, but.
In the land services, is that what you're thinking?
No,
Or-
the environmental is with the highway department.
That environment, okay.
Yeah. And given the fact
Yeah.
in looking at that, I just
Yeah.
see it's handled different ways, and it can be based upon alignment, what makes sense. If you're talking about environment and you're talking about various aspect of it, certainly the Firewise component could be, but it's just a discussion that might, looking at how we align roles and responsibilities, and we allocate dollars, and where dollars come to us that could be funded by outside sources as opposed to levy, that this has always been funded either through our, this rural schools or through our tax forfeited funding. But
Yeah.
when you look at the position that's the environmental specialist position, that is levy dependent. So that's
Yeah.
why I'm just saying
Yeah,
it's something.
It would take discussions with
Yeah,
Robbie for
yeah,
sure.
so,
And careful handling with, right now, it's the bookkeeping is easy, because that's all that person does for us. And then it would take some careful
Yeah,
handling that,
yeah.
you know, to show the work that's being done for the Title III.
Sure.
That gets monitored very closely by our audit team too, and the state auditors prior, so.
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate the conversation. With that, I make a motion to approve the notice for publication for the allocation and use of the fiscal year 2024 Secure Rural Schools Title III funds.
Support.
Any further questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you on that, Brady. Can move on to parking lot contract.
So this is familiar. We've had a contract with Voyager Canoe Outfitters to manage our SAG landing lots for a number of years now, probably in that 15-year area. And the difference now is that there is, for the last 2 years really, is that there's just one lot that we're managing, our lot. We used to lease a second one off of Moose Pond Drive, and the Forest Service is now operating that themselves. So this is just for SAG Lake Parking Lot 1 for the 2026 season. Voyager Canoe Outfitters agrees to provide the services for the county parking area, including the maintenance of the restrooms, the monitoring of the lots for proper use, the issuing of permits, collecting of fees at a cost of $300 per week during the season when it's open. So from sometime in May when it's open until generally early October. And the fees that we collect more than pay for the cost of the contract. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it, so.
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement with Void Drinking Outfitters.
Support.
Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
The last item I have is a revolving loan request for East Bay Holding Company, LLC. So this would be to approve by motion a loan to East Bay Holding Company for construction of a bathhouse facility at an amount not to exceed $250,000, conditional on final bank commitment, other funding source commitments, interest at market rates, a term of 20 years, collateral consisting on second position on business real estate, personal guarantee of the owners, and on condition of the county attorney approval, satisfactory completion of all borrower documents. So the committee met last week with the applicants on April 8th to discuss the loan request. So it's to construct a new modern bathhouse facility on the existing business property, which is on the on East Bay, given the name, and it operates alongside the original Red Sauna's locker room and lounge, and I call that original because we have a loan with these applicants already. They're operating a sauna on that same area, and that's the Red Sauna's, the locker room, and the lounge. So the existing loan is current on payments. It was, I think, a $65,000 loan. The committee approved the new request on a vote of 5-4, none opposed. The committee discussed the RLF guideline that states no loan will be approved that would result in more than $250,000 aggregate outstanding loan to a common owner. So the new loan will be the $250,000 less the balance of the existing loan at the time the proceeds are paid. If it was today, it would be somewhere in the neighborhood of between 197 and 198,000 based on that loan payment. So that's the basics. And Gary was at the meeting, so.
I'm just curious about the term bathhouse facility. There was a big article in the paper that Duluth has one of the last bathhouses that people can enter, and I don't know, this is different than a sauna. Is that the way you interpret it?
I have never been in a bathhouse. I'm not entirely certain of what that is, but I know they wanted bigger facilities. Their demand, they say, is high and increasing, and for larger groups and so forth. The credit union was persuaded, and I think our committee was pretty supportive also. I'll let Gary speak to this also.
Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I appreciate the fact that this request came before the loan committee, and after 15 months of being on the loan committee in this term, we finally had a reason to meet. So everybody was sharp and ready to evaluate, and it was good discussion, and the basis under which the revolving loan makes loans like this is up to a maximum of $250. So the existing loan that exists with East Bay at this point is subtracted, which is what Brady is saying. So the other thing I think that's important for the public to be aware of, that the oversight and fiscal responsibility of the committee in evaluating this and other financial parties has been very rigorous, and as a result, the history of this loan fund that initially was funded through the legislature has been a real value to our community, and we've had very good results as far as the entities that do borrow paying back the monies. So with that, I would approve a loan to the East Bay Holding Company, LLC, for construction of a bathhouse facility at an amount not to exceed $250,000, conditional on final bank commitment, other funding source commitments, with interest at market rates for a term of 20 years, with collateral consisting of a second position on business, real estate, personal guarantees of the owners, and on the condition of attorney approval of satisfactory completion of all borrower documents.
Support?
And just to read their description, I think it's probably more the size. They said it will feature a large event sauna with lake views, steam room, walk-in cold plunge pool, hot and warm pools, relaxation lounge, shower and locker amenities.
And Madam Chair, certainly if we'd like to get an overview, the parties are here, so they could give us a little overview if we'd like to understand that.
Well, we have a motion and a second. Do you want to have further conversation?
Not me?
Okay.
I'm ready.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay? All
Thanks.
right, we still have some time, so let's move on to the letter that we have before us from the Forest Service. And after 30 years, they really want to kind of upgrade things and have a new perspective, and they have sent out requests for suggestions and so forth, and they're just asking, do we want to be part of the collaborative discussion on it? So I see a nod right there.
I would be very interested in
Yes.
participating in that.
Yeah, right. Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. What do we know up to this point? I think that there was an attempt to address this in 2024 with the same outline as public involvement and counties and other interested parties. If, like many things that are drafted in government, there is a revisiting cycle in which you have to come back to it and discuss and just see that everything is current, relates. And so I'm assuming this 30-year thing is not necessarily a cycle because that's so long. It's just it hasn't been dealt with, and we feel we should because things are changing. And it would be interested to the county's involvement in this. It would be interesting to understand context so that we can inform the process, meaning that if the issue of motorized, vehicles, boats, and towing, if we're finding that the demographics of those using it and the need for towing them so they don't have quite as much of a journey, whatever it is, the campsite degradation issue is certainly an issue, but given the significant resource this is to our county, certainly our involvement is something that's not questionable, and we appreciate the fact that they're allowing us to have a voice in the process.
Commissioner Sullivan?
I would, Madam Chair and fellow commissioners and the public, just like to explain that this is much like what I'm attending, the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness Collaborative, the discussions that are going on, and again, it's an opportunity to have a voice, to make recommendations, but we are not decision makers, all right? But I think continuing to have this opportunity to be one of the many partners that is involved is really important to our county from an economic standpoint, as well as, just looking at the health of our environment.
Right, and I think we haven't really heard from them from the public input. That usually goes on for several months, and so we'll wait to hear that. But would you like to then send a letter to Tom Hall to indicate that we will be on board with them and offer our suggestions and look at the direction that they're going right now?
Absolutely.
And then express the appreciation for the invite.
Yeah. Okay. We'll work on that. So, right now, we could go and discuss any meetings or any reports or any updatings that anyone would have. Commissioner Sullivan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Recently had an opportunity to attend a meeting in Ely for the Rainy Headwaters Vermilion River One Watershed, One Plan. And just so people are aware, I've been president, serving in that capacity for the last couple of years. I am now serving as secretary of that organization. We passed the hat on to North St. Louis County for leadership there, but we will be meeting quarterly. At the meeting, we talked about a number of things. One of the discussions off the agenda was really about some of the boat wrap legislation that was passed in the Minnesota legislature in 2025 and takes effect this spring. And it's really a boat wrap stewardship law to reduce landfill waste and increase recycling of the plastics that are used. And producers are the ones that are going to be paying for some of those costs. I had a chance to attend our Soil and Water Conservation District monthly meeting, did a lot of budget updates, and then attended a meeting online for our airport. And as you know, I've talked a lot about electric air mobility over the last year, and we had a discussion about the implications for general aviation at airports like ours. And there have been 27 sites that have been selected for the first phase of electric mobility for aircraft. We are not one of the 27, but we will probably be in that second phase. The implications are really a game changer for flight schools, such as we have with Sawtooth Aviation. And the electric aircraft allow for lower operating costs, reduce maintenance requirements, and make the training more affordable and accessible. And think about students flying in a completely quiet, zero-emission aircraft that they plug in overnight instead of fueling at the pumps. That's part of the future of the Cook County Airport. And these aircraft are being built right now, but they will not actually be in service for a few years. So that first group of 27 airports will have equipment, and we will follow after that. But cargo and medical transport are the strong candidates for early adoption, and that's why we will be part of phase 2. And the aircraft are designed for short-haul routes under 300 miles, which is quite common in northern Minnesota, and electric aircraft are particularly well-suited for that. So it will lower energy costs and increase our ability to operate from our airport, whether it be for package delivery or for medical transport. So search and rescue, all kinds of things. So really interesting things to come. And then this week we've had a Gunflint Trail Scenic Byway and Cook County Coalition of Lake Association meetings. And one of the things I did do is request letters of support for our Gunflint Trail project from those organizations, just so all of you are aware. And we're recommending that those letters of support be sent to members of the House and Senate in terms of their capital investment committees. And the last thing I'd like to talk about is what's been happening in the U.S. Forest Service in terms of closing research facilities. It appears we're losing the Grand Rapids Research Facility and also Ely, and that is going to have a significant impact for Cook County. Forest Service research in those two places have conducted studies on boreal forest, on peatlands, lakes, and they've really focused on the amount of mercury in water and how that impacts water quality, forest regeneration after forest fires, and wildlife habitat and biodiversity. So this is science that's used by our land managers that direct our timber harvests here in Cook County, and forest health and pest response from spruce budworm. So there's going to be a lot of changes, and we don't know exactly what all those changes will be. But just in summary, it reduces our long-term research here. There's less support for forest management decisions that are being made, and loss of federal jobs related to those research facilities. So I just want people to be aware of that. It really weakens some of our partnerships. So I will continue to follow that and report to the board on that.
Thank you on your reports. Anyone else? Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for Commissioner Sullivan. if we look at, research, I mean, obviously keeping abreast of information that affects a large portion of our county, and if that gets transferred to a regional or how that's going to be handled in the future, but we often talk about governance at the local level, and information at the local level is beneficial because it isn't information that is too generic and not specific to us. So that is an important element. But appreciate your monitoring that. Most of the commissioners attended the Arrowhead Regional Development meeting that was held recently, and we were given an opportunity to address things that within our county that we felt we needed to focus on, and it just consistently came up that housing was the issue. And Commissioner Mills' comment was, we've addressed that. But it continues to be a real challenge for us, and the issue is affordability and the nature of the housing based upon our demographics. Part of the impetus for this meeting is that in order to receive funding, federal funds, there needs to be the discipline of having a meeting that identifies real need, and then that information is used in making requests for funding so that we'd have funding to address need in our area. A summary of the discussion that was held on multiple levels will be coming back to us so that we would have that, and I'm sure we would hear more about the specifics. The other is the title of the committee is Courthouse Security. But that's grown to be more generic, and we touched on it somewhat in this morning's meeting about facilities. And for commissioners that have sat on this board, there's been many directions as to how we're going to address need relative to staffing and departments. And we've looked at building new facilities, we've looked at adding on to the community center, and the focus in our discussions recently has been that we had hired an architecture that we've been working with just to consider our alternatives. And the focus at this point is to look at how we might use unused space in a building, this courthouse that was built several years ago, and be more efficient stewards of that space. And so it was a very good discussion, very informative, and I think for the public, just knowing that we're trying to look at creative, resourceful ways of managing our need for departments and staff, as opposed to, building new buildings, which then we have to maintain on top of what we already have to maintain. So I felt it was very substantive discussion and something that obviously we'll be hearing more of.
Thank you. Any other reports?
Sure, Madam Chair. Since our last meeting, the first one Administrator Treble touched on at our special meeting, and that was the Y Oversight Committee, reforming that group with the new director, Amanda Hand, and kind of getting some cohesion there and discussion, and it eventually kind of all led to looking at contracts again and refamiliarizing ourselves there, and getting into some of the nitty-gritty about insurance and requirements and that sort of thing. But it's great discussion, just so people can get back on the same page. Also, I missed the Food Access Council, which was the first one after the announcement of the closure of Ruby's Pantry, and so there was good discussion and to be a TIP coverage of that. The reason I missed was at the Labor Management Committee with the rest of that team, and that was another good meeting, which may be the last one because we'll stop that during negotiations, and we'll be entering negotiations with all three unions here. I think our first meeting is later.
It's been bounced around, so it's...
Yeah, the 29th, 21st, yeah. It'll be coming up. And so that'll be exciting. But it was good discussion there, just having the business agents from the different unions is really helpful to get their perspectives on what's going on around the state and what some good practices are for labor management committees and what we want to do and how we want to communicate and how we want to communicate with the public about all that too. Let's see, Northwoods Food Project met, and one of the things I shared with them is I'll be applying for a grant for a composting project. That's through the state, that's through the feds, and that's due tomorrow, and so we'll see what's happened there. But I've gotten a good number of letter of support from different North Shore Waste, Krishna Warheide up in Grand Portage, different businesses around the county, including the co-op and some restaurants. And so I'm hopeful with that, and we'll see what happens. If that's awarded, then it gets real, right? Then you have to really dig in, but not investing too much time in that until that comes to fruition, or if it does. I was invited to a sustainability discussion at the folk school, hosted by the folk school, and it was really a listening session asking community members if they saw opportunities for the folk school to do more, or how they can better support the community in a sustainability push. And since the closure of CCLEP, it leaves a gap in our community that higher ed is doing a good amount to try to pick up, but there's certainly other gaps there, and that was kind of referenced repeatedly throughout the meeting. It's like, boy, if CCLEP was around, then that would be a good avenue. But
Commissioner Mills, a quick question. Did they talk at all about giving energy audits to members of the community? I know I've had multiple requests in recent months, and that was a service that CCLEP used to provide. And where do community members go for an energy audit?
yeah, I think it was brought up, but the question kind of is what is a local nonprofit school's craft school's role, right? Like they can lead by example, but should they be doing these audits? So they're having an audit done, and they want to share that and share how they had that done with other businesses and kind of, spread the word that way.
All right.
And of course, higher ed has resources along that route too. So there was a lot discussed, and yes, that was touched on a little bit. The city was there as well, and so just hearing about incentives or disincentives and different options. Soil and Water was there, and that was great. They had some really good suggestions for both the campus as well as the rest of the city. The city zoning ordinance allows building from property line to property line, and that leaves, potential no trees, right? And so that can really affect the aesthetics, that can affect the temperature of downtown.
Water runoff?
Yeah, everything. It's exactly, yeah. And we have the slope with all pavement coming down into the harbor, and so there was just more talk around that. And I think there was good reception, and I think that they recognized some good possibilities there. So all around, it was great to be invited to that.
Thank you, Commissioner Mills. It's now 9:30.
Dope.
I'll continue with my report later. So at 9:30 this morning, we're going to have a public hearing on Cook County fee schedules. The public hearing will be held pursuant to MS 373.41 to consider changes by the Cook County fee schedule. The fee schedule may charge fees for services provided by any county office, official, department, court, or employee. The county board, after a public hearing, shall establish the amounts of the fees to be charged for the services unless a statute has specifically specified the amount. So I will now open the public hearing, and Brady can assist.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we'll let Neva speak to, if she'd come forward and speak to the two fees that they're requesting to change at Land Services. The first one for changes to multiple septic system inspections, and then the second one, a general change to, for the ROSO, which you're familiar with.
Good morning.
Good morning. So I asked our Environmental Health Officer, Jesse Johnson, to join us this morning in case if some of your questions go beyond my technical aptitude for some of the septic inspection questions. But just to start off with, for the septic inspections, I wanted to give you a little bit of context to what this process is, why it even exists, why it's even on our fee schedule. So the Cook County Environmental Health Officer has the opportunity to offer septic inspections on private properties if landowners request it. It is not something that is necessarily required that he does that work. A private inspector can do this work. So I just wanted to make that really clear that this is kind of a voluntary option for the county to do the inspection. Someone could go out and have a private septic inspector, if they have the credentials, to do that inspection for them. So that's just a first off, is that there is an alternative to this fee line item. It is not a requirement that the county does that inspection. An inspection itself is triggered when a septic system does not have a current valid certificate of compliance. So let's say it's been 15 years since the septic was either installed or last inspected. And if the property owner is applying for a land use permit and they live within the shoreland area of a lake, that will trigger the compliance inspection. So we have certain triggers based off of how long it's been since a septic was inspected and also where the property is located. That's triggering these compliance inspections. And then we also have the Lakeshore Compliance Inspection Program, where we go lake by lake and focus on doing the inspection of the whole lake to make sure everybody is up to current standards for that. So that's kind of how we do our inspection program. Stepping back as far as what the state requires, the state requires that the county have a form of a septic inspection program, and then the county figures out based off of their own county needs how they set those triggers for the inspections. So when I was working formerly at Lake County, that county had a point of sale inspection. So if a property went up for sale, and it, again, that same example, had been 15 years since the septic was last inspected, that would trigger an inspection before the property could be sold, or property money had to go into escrow. It got a little messy sometimes, but that was kind of their trigger point. So they did not have a lakeshore compliance inspection program. So there's certain thresholds that we have to have. And so we do our method through the land use permit in shoreland areas, as well as the lakeshore septic compliance inspection program. I guess lastly, what a compliance inspection is, and Jesse can speak much more to this point, but it can range from being a more straightforward process to being a very long, technical, lengthy process. So we are verifying two things. We're verifying that the current septic system is being protective of groundwater. So sometimes we have these old in-ground trench systems where the soils actually weren't good enough, and we don't have enough what we call vertical separation. So where the effluent, the liquid, leaving the tank and going into the treatment area, it's not high enough to kind of provide that space for all the bacteria and microbes to do their thing before that effluent gets down into the groundwater. So that would be one reason for failure, is that it's not protecting groundwater. The other one is that it would be an imminent health to public safety, imminent threat to public health and safety. And so that's the other standard, where if you have a cracked tank, sometimes these septic tanks have cracked lids, and that's a very significant danger. Kids, animals can fall into those, and it'd be extremely dangerous. The other is like electrical components. If the electrical components going into the septic tank and the pump are faulty, that's a safety issue, as well as surfacing effluent, say a straight pipe going right out of the tank into surface waters, or if the mound is leaking, if that system is getting too much pressure and too much stuff is getting pushed through it all the time, if it hasn't been maintained well, anything surfacing, that's imminent threat to public health, because that water hasn't been treated before it's clean. So that's kind of what the inspection itself looks like. That process itself often requires a lot of paperwork. Jesse needs to find the old paperwork from when that septic was first installed. And so when we have these multiple systems on one property, that paperwork often gets super messy based off of how this has been done historically. And the time needed is equal it's based off of per system. Regardless if there's 5 systems on one property or 1 system on a property, that property that has 5 systems will take 5 times as long to do the inspections as the property that has 1 septic system on the property. So it's not scaled, like it gets more efficient per system on the property. If anything, it increases in complexity. So the goal with our fee schedule, former Land Services Director Tim Nelson would always say that there's been a variety of boards in Cook County over time. Some wanted us to have no fees, and some of us have wanted to have our fees based off of the actual amount that it costs staff to do the work. And so we try to meet somewhere in the middle. We try to have our fees be somehow proportional to the work that is offered through this. So that's kind of our goal with this, is to amend this line item so that it is a flat fee per system, regardless if it's multiple systems on a property or if it's just 1 septic system on a property. We believe that will make it more proportional to the amount of work that's being done. And then that's kind of my lead into this. But if you have specific questions about septic compliance inspections, Jesse's here. But again, I think the main point is that, again, that whole inspection process, although we set the triggers of when the inspection is needed, someone can go out and have a private inspector do that work. So I just wanted to kind of make sure that is clear.
Questions or comments? Commissioner Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Neva. I guess we do not have any public here to address this issue. Have we received any correspondence, or has there been any calls or anything coming from individuals on this?
I have not heard anything, no.
Okay. Sometimes people are busy and they don't know it, and then when it comes something that is relevant to them, it's like, well, when did this happen?
Sure.
But I think the 2 points is that we always want to look on the why, and the why here is to have a healthy environment, to protect the environment. And many septic systems had tanks that had no bottoms, and those are no longer compliant. So our focus here is to protect the environment and, keep our water clean and safe. And there's processes and things that help contribute to that. So compliance with that focus is important. How that gets done, the county has to look at it from its stewardship and the time involved and the money involved. And through our lived experience, we're finding that it takes just as much time. So when you have multiple septic systems, that fee should apply to each system, given the work invested in it. So that's a reality. The other key point, which you've alluded to twice, is the fact that this is an option. Should you choose to find somebody to do this, to be in compliance, because one of those flags have come up relative to a trigger, then if you use the county, here's the basis. And if you want to go out and find competitive bids to meet that compliance requirement, you're certainly welcome to do so.
Is there a distinction between the properties on the lake? Is that automatically checked, or is that the same system as this? People call you, or do you do a wide range of the shore inspections automatically?
For the Lakeshore Compliance Inspection Program. So that's a program that we've been going based off of grant funding. So if we have available funds to fund that process, then the grant is paying for those compliance inspections. That this fee wouldn't apply to people who are in the Lakeshore Compliance Inspection Program. That's why we it's in a way, they're getting a free compliance inspection based off of the grant. But if there's a failure, then they would be needing to do that remedial work.
How often would something like that happen on the shoreline?
A failure?
No, how often do the inspections happen? Every 5 years, 2 years?
So we're going lake by lake. So right now, for example, we're doing Loon and Birch Lakes because we got funding through the Rainy River headwater. Rainy River.
Watershed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not Lake Superior North, Rainy River.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. So these one watershed, one plans have been how we've been funding that recently. We did the stretch along Highway 60, along Lake Superior, and we made it as far as
Grand Marais.
Grand Marais, yep.
And then we will eventually be working from Grand Marais up to the reservation line. That's where we would stop.
Okay.
Again, once we have more grant funds to continue that program. We have found that we have to kind of pace this out because the amount of noncompliance that gets found takes some time to work with those property owners to get that fixed. So we don't want to have too much of a backlog where we can't provide that support.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gamble.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. In my first term, it was significant number of inspections, and we sort of prioritized, based upon the lake, and basically it just saying that we've been given money to make sure that as we live in this environment, that we're protecting it. And certainly one of the issues is the water quality issue, both when you dig a well and when you have your wastewater, and how you treat that wastewater so that you're not creating unsafe scenarios. And of course, the vulnerability increases when you get close to lake water. So we're fortunate to have the money. The administration of that has been a challenge because there's so many failed systems. And so this isn't an intent like a gotcha thing. It's just a commitment as a community to protect the quality of our environment, which we hear multiple times in multiple scenarios. And so it's part of our stewardship responsibility and enabling our ability to live here. So that's the whys, and how we approach this, as we've stated over and over again. You, the landowner, have the option to determine how you're going to bring your system up to compliance. So we're having this discussion, and as we go through these items after the public comment period, then we will come back and address this and by motion support. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you on that one. And then we have, moving on to the next item from Brady.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the fee change the Auditor's Office is requesting is for the Sag Lake parking permit. We've had a permit fee there since I've been here. For probably the last 12 to 15 years, that fee has been, this is the annual permit, has been $75. So now we're asking to change it to $80 for two reasons. One, the longevity without the change, and number two, that the Forest Service is now operating the other lot on Moose Pond Drive, and they've announced that that's the fee that they are charging is $80, and it makes sense that ours would be the same and not have any confusion between the two, since we're overdue for changing that fee based on cost of living. So, combination.
Questions or comments on that? No. The last item? You're still here. Yes, Neva.
Thank you. As I've been working with different project proposers and developers, it's occurred to me that I created a process that does have additional zoning regulations, which incurs additional fees. And so I wanted to find an avenue that we could reasonably amend our fee structure so we're not penalizing people for creating residential properties with the residential open space overlay district. I thought through different ways to achieve this, and I think what makes the most sense is that we just do a 50% reduction in the rezone application fee as well as the platting fees. And then after that point, once the lots are created, it is still all the normal fees that any normal parcel would have. Kind of two reasons. So the rezone step here into the overlay district is an additional administrative hurdle for developers. And so that's $600 up front to something that they may not know if they'll get. And so I think proposing a $300 fee instead will help make, especially in these early years, as people may dip their toes into this kind of new process, maybe build a little goodwill, but also not penalize people for trying this new program that we've created. And then with the platting fees, this makes a lot of sense, and I am embarrassed that it took me so long to think about it, but frankly, our platting fees are based off of the number of lots you're creating. And so if we're creating the residential open space overlay district to create 2 times the number of residential lots, that is 2 times the individual lot fee. So it's typically a base fee. I think it's like $725 or something, and then I think it's $56 per a lot on top of that. So if someone wants to create 14 or 20 lots, that adds up. So again, it's not huge, but I think it is at least recognizing that it's not our goal to be punitive in people trying to create residential lots through this process, and that we're just trying to mitigate the additional administrative costs that are incurred through this process that we created, while still working with our current fee structure.
Okay, questions? Commissioner Mills?
Thank you, that makes good sense. Though I fear that people won't recognize the 50% reduction. Like, it's still gonna be a thing, right? So is there a way that we can say it was, you have to pay this, but it's 50% of what it was, or something? I mean, I'm just trying to think that through. It's still gonna cost something, and
Yeah, I think on our fee schedule itself, so like on the rezone application, there will be a fee line item that says Rozo rezone, $300 versus typical rezone, $600.
okay, great.
And then, the plat fee, we administratively have to figure out anyway, because our computer program isn't quite savvy enough to figure that. And so we would just make it really clear to people, like, this is a reduction. And developers are usually trying to add up all these costs before they even initiate a process. So I have a lot of opportunities to talk with them and kind of indicate, like, oh, by the way, 50% the cost of the rezone and platting fees for this process. So.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would agree with Commissioner Mills. It's well-reasoned, and as we moved into this, I mean, we're looking for creative ways and alternative ways to meet housing needs, and we don't want our fee schedule and some of the other things to encumber what we're setting out to do. That's why I say it's well-reasoned in how we address every aspect of this in order to make it happen. I've had it commented to me, too, that if you want development, we need to get the county out of the pocketbooks of developers. And to the extent that we can demonstrate we do that in good faith without abdicating our financial stewardship responsibility, I think that's a good thing.
Okay. So this is the end of our public hearing, and I will close the public hearing. Thank you, Neva.
Thank you.
And then we'll have a discussion on these 3 different topics. Commissioner Gamble?
I was going to make a motion, but if we want to have a discussion, certainly we can have a discussion.
We'll close it first.
Yeah, you just closed it.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
All right, thank you. So I would make a motion to accept the fee changes that have been proposed before us. One is to modify the current fee structure from charging $500 for the first septic system compliance inspection on the property and $200 for each additional system to be $500 for each septic system compliance on the property. Also to approve by motion the change the annual fee for the Sag Lake parking permit to $80, and to modify the current fee structure to allow a 50% reduction in permit fees related to ROSA rezoning and subsequent ROSA platting fees.
Support.
All in favor?
Hi.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, so we're continuing on with commissioner reports. I just received yesterday a notice about climate change happening a week from tonight, and that's from Deanna from ARDC at Studio 21. Sounds like bring the family. There's kids' activities, so I'll have to see. I have other meetings going on, so I'll have to divide myself. Not physically, but hopefully not. Then last week I attended the North Shore Forest Collaborative, at Wolf Ridge, and we had a really interesting presentation about fires in the past. Fires both within United States and then fires within Cook County. And interesting photo that was acquired by the presenter on 4 women in Grand Portage who were doing prescribed burns. That's how they dealt with their land. And I thought it was an interesting point of, that's what we're all trying to do, is prescribe burns. And even in my own yard, I'm thinking, well, the weather's okay today. Could I burn just this little part of the lawn because I want it to regenerate? And so that was discussed too, about the forestry having troubles with the wind and with the areas as to what to burn. Then the discussion got down to the Highway 61 corridor and all of us who live on it. And it was a very lively discussion. And actually, I think it has promoted another discussion about being more collaborative on how we do that, and then how we revegetate trees and shrubs for the climate change that's already happening. So that was, like I say, a very lively discussion on our future here on the North Shore. And then District 1 meeting, Suzanne Palm is handling that at ARDC. I gave a couple suggestions, and so we'll see what happens with our meeting then. That'll happen in June. So to the regional development meeting that we had last week, that's going to be presented this Thursday at ARDC Commission meeting, which includes a broader group of people. And so I'll be anxious. I believe that was going to end the traveling around. We were one of the last 3 counties, I believe, to have this presentation. So hopefully we'll have a good summary and kind of see where we want to go with that. I have an Arrowhead meeting on Wednesday evening, so be a busy couple days coming up. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to report on? Commissioner Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to give some thanks to Assessor Thompson. He presented yesterday for the Association of Minnesota Counties Virtual Lunch and Learn, did a really great job on appeals and equalization, and shared a PowerPoint statewide. There were commissioners from all over the state of Minnesota in attendance, and he just did an excellent job. So I want to make sure that our staff, as well as our community, is aware of the contributions he makes statewide.
Great.
Well, I had 2 other meetings I wanted to share. One was the Benefits and Wellness Committee. And the reason I wanted to share this specifically is because there was a benefits survey put out to all staff, and to try to better understand what staff would like. Would they like fewer benefits with the same cost? Would they like the same benefits with a higher cost, with all those different permutations and combinations, because costs of benefits continue to rise significantly. The way our benefits packages are created is we basically have a custom package that we can create, but it goes through Northeast Minnesota Health Consortium, and then there are limitations because we use Medica and they have a specific format and that sort of thing. But I thought it was really interesting to look at the different options and the different packages and what those costs could be. And I think it's really important to give choices to employees. Some employees want the catastrophic insurance, only that. They don't want higher premiums. Some employees want the full Monty, and have a family or a larger family that can, participate as well. And of course, then there's people in between. And then there's both the embedded plan and the non-embedded plan. And so there's lots of different options there. What I found it particularly interesting is I thought minimal cost difference in the very highest benefit to have the lowest premium with zero copay. I think it would be a larger cost to the county certainly, but because it's the split, but for employees it was, I thought, something nominal, like $100 per month to have a deductible that was half as much. And so it seemed like a no-brainer that if you're planning to use your health insurance, if you're expecting to meet your deductible, if you do that on the regular basis, then it would make sense to pay for that. But we'll see. We can't make these packages until later on in the year when it's open enrollment time or just before that or something like that. So because that's when health insurance companies lay out their costs and what plans are available. But it's a really good discussion, and I really appreciate all the employees that filled out the survey. And after, I think, kind of we go through this process, there's also the other side of wellness and looking for a wellness survey and what programs or opportunities are there to promote more wellness within the organization. So that was a really great discussion. Then after that, I went to the highway department for the biochar demonstration, and that was very interesting. Very simple, really. The other biochar implements that I've seen have been a lot like higher tech and have a motor and a conveyor belt and a blower and all this stuff. And this was basically just a large burn barrel that had an opening, almost like a solo stove, but you're not trying to feed it oxygen. You're trying to create an envelope that traps it and kind of controls that burn. So that was pretty neat. And I intended to go back at the end just to see how the breakdown was, but I got caught up and was not able to do that. But that had a really good turnout, a lot of great people there. A lot of similar faces that were at the folk school the previous night, so that was kind of funny. But yeah, I was happy that that demonstration was at the highway department, and so just really appreciated Tia arranging that and organizing that. And different system than what the invasive weeds would be using too. So that was also neat to see, just the different options or uses for that old technology. So that was all that I wanted to do. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else remember anything? Commissioner
Madam
Gamble?
Chair, I just quickly mentioned I had to bring a load over to North Shore Way, so Dustin gave me a tour of the new facility. A lot of cement. a lot of cement. But I think as a county our size, to have a facility like that is going to be amazing. And of course, what led to that was the fact that we just have so much refuge that needed to be treated, and we weren't in compliance after the MPC came up and did the review. So this is definitely a great response to that need. And I know that with tax statements coming out, that there's probably been a lot of comments that commissioners have fielded relative to what's this and how equitable is the distribution of that cost relative to a business and an individual and multiple lots. And I think that's maybe something we're going to want to look at as we move forward in the context of what we're able to do, just because we did have much discussion, but our intent was to make it equitable.
And to the folks who called me, I just said, we had to start somewhere. And so it's not cast in stone, literally, and we'll have future discussion, especially someone who owns 3 pieces of land, but there's nothing producing any waste.
Yeah.
It's just empty land.
Yeah, and,
so.
and that's understandable, and we did wrestle with this, and I did say at the time that if you look at the cost of the recycle center right now, the amount that it was being subsidized at the time that we had that discussion per taxpayer on a median price home was $87 annually.
Yeah.
And so how we address the recycling center is is going to be a key issue to try to mitigate overall costs for both waste and recycling.
Right.
Oh, I did have one more thing I forgot. Well, and I guess piggybacking on Commissioner Gamble's, just that last comment, North Shore Waste is also aware
Sure.
of the cost of recycling, and so their intention is to, work with us on how to do that, but it's just going to be,
And that's a discussion we need to have.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I mean an honest discussion.
Yeah.
The reality is, when you look at how we're managing recycling right now and the realities of recycling, and constantly we're hearing that this can be, this can't be, now we don't do magazines, now we don't do this, we can do this, whatever. 90% of plastics go into landfill. They actually aren't recycled.
Yep.
And so we have a perception that we're doing something good, but the reality is whatever. And we're sorting it here where really the cost savings, when you look at the amount of money, that $87 that's being subsidized now per taxpayer, just bringing it down and let them deal with it down there to try to create efficiencies and still achieve what is in reality achievable.
yeah,
So,
100%. Well, the thing that I really wanted to share, though, that I did was, although I appreciate that conversation and the future conversations are very important, is our new EDA director, Lucas Wakefield, started yesterday. And so I will be introducing him to county staff here I believe this week, hopefully. I'm just kind of informally walking around and saying hey and introductions and giving him a feel and that sort of thing. I think he's getting a lot of that from other community members as well, but just wanted to give you a heads up that he's around and we're excited to have him, and just an incredibly talented and I'd say experienced individual for the position, so I feel really fortunate.
Great. Okay. Then we'll move on to upcoming meetings to note. Our next Board of Commissioners regular meeting will be Tuesday, April 28th in the Commissioner Room. We have some correspondence memos from the BWCA Plan Amendment Cooperating Agency invite, and then we have the lodging tax comparison through January, of 26. We also now have recognition of staff for the April staff anniversaries. Abigail Prom from Environmental Technician, 1 year. Andrea Parent-Smith on Maintenance, 1 year. Robert Nelson, PHHS, 1 year. Michael Koenig, Recycling Center, 2 years. Janet Kokamila Burka has been with us 3 years.
does it feel like 3 years?
Or a lifetime.
Probably some days. Diana Mitriova, Attorney's Office, 4 years. Matt Olson, Highway Department, 4 years. Kirk Oberg with MIS, 19 years. Bev Wokey from Auditor's Office, 21 years. And Stephen Butts from Highway Department, 31 years. And there be no further business, we are adjourned.